Welcome to the Home Team Podcast. I'm Carl Falconer.
And I'm Danny Arroyo.
And we're tackling homelessness. This is our inaugural Home Team Podcast, Pathlight Homes Home Team Podcast. And we always start the podcast with a coin flip. So I want to give you a little bit about our podcast here. We're going to be talking about homelessness. We're going to be talking about housing, solutions, opinions, options, all different types of things. But we're doing it with a football format. And the reason for that is that Danny and I are both huge football fans. And so we thought we'd try and make it a little more exciting, a little more fun. So we're using football as a format for this podcast, but we're primarily going to be talking about homelessness and housing. So let's start with the coin toss. Hold on one second. Let me get my coin out. All right. Danny, call it in the air.
Heads.
And it's heads. All right, great. So Danny defers the second half, and I'll start the podcast. Great. First, let us go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name's Carl Falconer, as I said. I'm an Army veteran. I've been in the homeless service industry now for 31 years. I started as a street outreach worker, primarily in Jacksonville, Florida. But then I also have moved and worked with organizations in Dallas, Texas, Broward County, Florida, and Asheville, North Carolina, before coming here to Pathlight Home, and now I'm the president and CEO of Pathlight Home. Danny, tell them a little about you.
Sure, and my name is Danny Arroyo. I'm the vice president of programs. I've been in this field for about 12 years, started my career in New York, working for a day service center, moved to Florida, started working there at a shelter for about 5 years, moved over to another day service center, and I've been at Pathlight Home for about a year and a half now.
Great. Thanks, Danny. Mm-hmm. All right. So this segment in the first quarter we would talk about headlines, but because we did our introductions today, we just kind of want to give you a feel of who we are. And then our next segment each week will be highlights of the week from the football games. Now, we're starting at the beginning of the football season. We're both excited. Both of our teams, my Chicago Bears, his Dallas Cowboys, undefeated at this point and definitely going to the Super Bowl.
The season has started very good.
Exactly. It's off to a great start, no doubt. All right. So we're going to talk about the games coming up this week. Dallas plays Philly on Thursday night. So talk about that a little bit, Danny.
Yes. So we are playing the defending champions. Last game was in December that we played them. We didn't fare very well, so I'm positive that we're going to have a good start to our season this week, which is a Thursday night game. So I don't know how I'm going to come in on a Friday. We'll see how that goes, but I'm confident. I think we have a pretty good team, but Philadelphia's they're good. They're strong. Jalen Hurts, and yeah.
They definitely are.
Yep.
So, as another headline, the big headline this week, of course, was Jerry Jones, your wonderful owner and general manager, and got rid of Micah Parsons.
Yes,
and
he did.
I know Dallas Nation is mourning over that.
Yes, and I was watching America's Team on Netflix, and as soon as he took over Dallas, he got rid of Herschel Walker.
Right, that's
so I kind of got a flashback and kind of some PTSD from that. But yeah, it's Jerry. It's what he does. So we'll see how that's going to affect our team.
And he couldn't have picked a different team to trade him to? I mean, seriously, the Green Bay Packers, the mortal enemies of the Chicago Bears.
It's what Jerry does. That's what he does. So you never know what he's going to do. So
yeah, that was crushing to both of us.
It was.
Week, so
I mean,
definitely.
we knew the trade was coming. We expected it.
Yeah.
We just didn't know where. So it was a big surprise.
That's wrong. Anyway, Minnesota plays my Chicago Bears in Chicago on Monday night, actually, this year or this week. And so I'm looking forward to that. We have a new offensive coordinator. We have a new head coach. We got a totally revamped offense. I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to do, especially against J.J. McCarthy. It's a division game, just like your Eagles and Cowboys.
Yep.
And I think Chicago's going to do a really good job this week. All right, next would be our Lock of the Week results each week. And we will, in fact, later in the show, we'll each pick our home team Lock of the Week from the NFL schedule. And this is where we'll talk about the results. And then, Danny can razz me if I'm not winning enough, or I can razz him, or, back and forth. But that will basically cover our first quarter. And we're going to jump into our first housing topic after this break.
Hello, I'm Gigi Ramirez, the Senior Director of Fundraising and Engagement here at Pathlight Home. For over 30 years, we've helped more than 8,000 people transition from homelessness to hope. But when someone moves from the streets to their own home, they often have nothing. That's why we provide immediate essentials, everything from bedding and food to soap and cookware, to help them truly feel at home. Beyond housing, Pathlight offers career training and supportive services, like our 12-week culinary program, helping residents gain skills, find jobs, and rebuild independence. You can be part of the story. Volunteer your time, donate essential goods, or become a monthly Pathlight hero, ensuring every neighbor has a chance to thrive. Visit pathlighthome.org to donate today.
Welcome back to the Home Team Podcast. This is the second quarter, and in this quarter, we're going to do what we call our housing drive. We're going to do a deep dive on a housing topic. We call this segment offense versus defense. One of us is going to, each week, is going to argue the positive aspects of a certain topic, a phrase, an initiative, something in the homeless service sector. And then one of us is going to talk about the cons or the negative side of that topic. As you can imagine, just about every topic has a positive and a negative. And then at the end of the segment, what we'll do is we'll tell you what Pathlight Home, our nonprofit organization, will tell you what that organization believes or what our stance is. So the topic this week is going to be New York City's right to shelter law. And I've chosen the offense for this week, so I'll talk about the positives of it. And Danny has chosen the defense, so he'll talk about maybe what some of the cons are of the New York City's right to shelter law. And so I'll go ahead and I'll start because the offense always starts the game, of course. And so I'll start my drive first. Let me tell you a little bit, give you a little bit of background about the right to shelter law in New York City. It's been in place since 1981. It guarantees a bed in a shelter to anyone in the city experiencing homelessness. In March of 2024, so just not too long ago, they rolled back some of the law, stating that single migrants may only access shelter up to 30 days, with possible extensions. As of October 2024, the latest count, there were 58,108 people who are currently being sheltered in New York City. So let me talk about some of the positives. The first positive, which might be the most important one, is that it's actually less expensive than housing. Now, this wouldn't be the case in a lot of places, but because shelter is typically pretty expensive. But in New York City, for what the cost of housing is, actually, as of December 2024, there were 52,000 people in shelters who were trying to get out of homelessness and had vouchers from the city, right? But each voucher actually cost the city about $20,000 a year. If you do the math on it and you take the shelter costs versus the housing costs for that same 5 years, the city actually saves $1.8 billion. That's billion with a B, by providing shelter instead of housing to those families over the 5 years. Now, the second part of this, or my second reason or rationale for the right to shelter, is because, and this is one of the reasons that they have the savings, is because the federal and state government actually subsidize shelters more than they subsidize housing in New York City. So they get help to shelter individuals, but they don't get the same level of help for housing individuals in New York City. The third point, even if housing was less expensive, there isn't enough to accommodate everybody, of course. So I talked about those 52,000 people who had vouchers. At the time, 11,000 of them, even though they had a voucher, still weren't able to find an apartment because there just aren't enough apartments available for people. My fourth point is it may work better for smaller communities. So obviously, New York City, the right to shelter law, like I said, it saves money over housing, things like that. But if you took someplace like, let's say, Volusia, Flagler County, their point-in-time count last year or in January of this year was 625 people unsheltered. And if you think about just providing shelter to those 625 people, that might make a lot more sense than providing shelter to 52,000 or 58,000, whatever that number was. So that might be another positive, too, is it might work better in a smaller community. And finally, if we could get everyone in shelter and off the streets, it might get more support or financial resources from business owners. I know that's one of the issues that business owners often have is seeing people out on the streets. And if we could get those people off the streets, it might get them more interested in being involved in helping us solve homelessness. So those are the positives. Those are the things that I see for the, like I said, New York City's right to shelter law. Danny, tell us what some of the cons might be.
Thanks, Carl. So I think the biggest issue I have with this is the financial burden. That's the biggest concern for me. I think in just 2 years of spending on the system climbed from $2.7 billion in 2022 to over $4 billion, that's with a B, in 2024. And these costs are projected to rise even further since the city signed a $1 billion in hotel contracts to house people temporarily. Those hotel costs per person is $352 per night per person. The other issue I have with this is that in mid-2025, the nightly census averages over 105,000 people, with 35,000 of those being children. And I just don't think that's a good place for children to be. I think that we can invest way more into just housing with this $4 billion. Of course, shelters have to be around. Shelters have to have people. It's a process to get people into housing. But I think just focusing on shelters and not addressing the housing crisis, I think you can utilize these dollars better to start building some affordable units. Start small, because it is New York, and New York is very expensive to live. It's very expensive to build, but I don't think they're addressing it as much, and they're just focusing on shelter, and I just don't think that's the answer at the moment. The other problem I have, again, with money is that some of these shelter executives are being paid upwards of $700,000 annually. Ooh. And although we want our CEOs and presidents to get paid well, I don't think that $700,000 is... It just doesn't make sense. Yeah. We can utilize that somewhere better. And this reflects a broken system, that shelters are crowded. we could use these dollars way better somewhere else. And I don't think that the city is thinking very smart.
Yeah.
So
With that salary, you could almost afford a one-bedroom apartment in New York City, right? I mean, just about.
You possibly can.
Yeah,
Yes.
just about.
Yep.
Anyway, that's our offensive defense segment. Like I said, Pathlight Home, our take on the right to shelter law has always been that we're focused on housing. Although, like Danny said, we do need shelter. The reality is that we want people to be housed. So if there's any way that we can house them instead of shelter them, then that's our best way around it. And that's what Pathlight Home believes, is housing is the answer over shelter. Now we go into our halftime segment, and this is where normally we'll be answering questions from our audience. So please feel free to send in some questions and comments. We've set up a specific email for this. It's questions@pathlighthome.org. And we'll answer all of your comments, all of your questions, or as many as we can get to in this segment each week. Next, we're going to go into Inside the Playbook, and this gives us a little look at behind the scenes of the Homeless Service Network. So what we're going to do this week is we're going to define a term for you. The term that we're going to define is housing first. It has lots of speculation out there, lots of different ways people have tried to define it. We're not arguing one way or the other here in this segment specifically. What we're really doing is we're just looking for a definition. So Danny's going to go ahead and give us a definition of housing first.
Sure. So housing first, and Pathlight Home has been doing this for over 30 years, and that's our model, is housing first. Housing first is an evidence-based approach to ending homelessness that prioritizes providing people with stable, permanent housing as quickly as possible without preconditions such as sobriety, employment, or participation in treatment programs. What this is that we provide housing, and then all the other supportive services that come with it. So we want to have you in a stable place with a roof over your head, and then provide all of these other services with mental health, substance abuse, employment, training. So it's having you in a safe place.
Right. And over the years, what the research shows is that this has been the most effective way to be able to end homelessness long term for people. It doesn't necessarily, like I said, we just talked about in the last segment, the shelter is that certainly a temporary solution to get people off the streets. But if you want a long term solution, what we've found at Pathlight Home is that housing first works, is getting people stable in housing, and then providing those support services, as Danny said, really helps them long-term maintain that housing. And then for the final segment of our halftime, I want to go to our quote of the week. This quote is about homelessness, and I think this one's relevant, particularly today, because a lot of people have some myths and misconceptions about how people become homeless and, what happens, things like that. A colleague of ours, his name is Mark Horvath. He hosts a podcast called Invisible People. I would recommend it to anyone. It's a fantastic podcast. He does a lot of interviews with experts in the field, things like that. He said, and I really love this quote, he said, "If making bad decisions caused homelessness, then everyone would be homeless." I don't know about you, Danny, but I've made a few bad decisions in my life.
I've made some as well.
And I didn't become homeless because of them, thank goodness. But I can certainly see where some decisions might lead people closer to homelessness. But it has to be more than just bad decisions.
Yeah, I agree. I think what you said earlier, this quote because of what's happening right now. There's so much stigma and just negativity, and like you said, if bad decisions caused by homelessness, then everybody be homeless. Yeah. So I think this is what this podcast is going to do too, is we're going to educate people on those myths and the stigmas, and once they start asking questions, every question is good for us to answer.
Absolutely.
So, but I think this is a perfect start.
I agree. Quote, so, I completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes us out of halftime. And now let's take a break, and we'll be back with the final half of our podcast. Hey, everyone. It's Carl Falconer, your favorite host from your favorite podcast, the Home Team Podcast. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Pathlight Home. Pathlight Home is a 501c3 nonprofit organization in Central Florida. We primarily provide housing to individuals. We have 560 units of housing that we provide to people who are experiencing homelessness. But we also provide employment resource centers, mental health services. We have a drop-in day service where people can come in and do laundry or get meals, all in preparation, hopefully, to get them into housing eventually and off the streets. So there are lots of things that we do at Pathlight Home. We'd love to get you more involved with us. One of the big questions people ask me when I'm out is, what can I do? Really, there's three things that we'd really love for you to do with Pathlight Home. Number one, obviously, we need funding. So you can go to pathlighthome.org and you can donate there. Number two is volunteering. We'd love to have volunteers come in and help us with any of our projects. And then number three is come take a tour with us. Come here to our facility and set up a tour and see what we do for yourself. It's the best way to get an inside look at what we're doing at Pathlight Home each day. So thank you for your support. We appreciate it. We love you being part of us helping the community and everything that we do. Thank you. Welcome back to the Home Team Podcast. We're into our third quarter now, which is the football drive. Yes. Okay, here we go. A little bit more fun. This week's NFL Player of the Week, and we'll try and keep these as up to date as possible. They might not be exactly in the week, but they'll always be relevant to an NFL player or former NFL player who's done some really good thing with homelessness or housing and really tried to make a difference in our community. This week's NFL Player of the Week is former NFL player Jordan Jenkins. He donated not one, but 2 houses to support homeless veterans in Columbus, Georgia. Jenkins, who's a Georgia native, played college football for the Georgia Bulldogs. He went on to play for the New York Jets, Houston Texans, and Las Vegas Raiders before he retired in 2022. On August 22nd of this year, recently, Jenkins sang the praises of the Plumber Home, which is a nonprofit that combats veteran homelessness and offers transitional housing to local vets. So, heeding his own advice, because he was basically talking them up, talking about how great they were, Jenkins put his money where his mouth is, and he looked for ways to help. He soon learned that the house next door to the Plumber Home was for sale, so he bought it for the organization. Then he learned that a second house on the same street was up for sale, and he purchased that residence as well, again, for Plumber Home, to be able to house more veterans who are experiencing homelessness. So we give our shout out this week to, like I said, former NFL player Jordan Jenkins. Give him one of those bulldog roofs or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
He did a great job, and we really appreciate his contribution.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how many other players are helping with homelessness.
Absolutely, because they don't get the credit, right?
don't,
I mean, you hear about all the negative things that NFL players do, but you very rarely hear about the positive things that are going on in the NFL. Hopefully we can find some more of those things to highlight.
Yeah,
in
and
our
I think
weekly show.
veterans, working with veterans is important to us as well.
Oh,
just with our
absolutely.
Nobody Left Behind program.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's a great story. That's a
Absolutely.
really
And
good
as an Army veteran myself, it definitely, warms my heart to see that people are really helping out our veterans. And now we'll go into our weekly football recap, or in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of look ahead. So this week, what we're doing is Super Bowl predictions. Oh, yeah. Here we go.
All right.
All right. Who you got for the Super Bowl this year, Danny?
So I have, as hard as it is for me to say, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. I know.
No, you can't do that, Danny. You cannot pick your mortal enemy in the Super Bowl. You can't do it.
It's my pick, and they're going to be going up against the Baltimore Ravens. That's who I pick. I think they're going to repeat. As much as I would love my team to make it to the end, yeah, I think
You're letting down Cowboy Nation out there, Danny.
I am, but that's my prediction, and I'm sticking to it. I'm going to stick to that.
Trying to be unbiased. I like it,
Yep.
but still, there's no way. I'm not picking the Packers. There's no way it's going to happen. So my Super Bowl prediction this year is a little bit out of the norm, I would say. I am picking the Buffalo Bills from the AFC. I think this is their year. I hope they get over that hump finally and get to the Super Bowl. But my NFC pick is a little bit, I would say a little bit more out there. I'm picking the Los Angeles Rams to play the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. So hopefully we'll see. I know Matthew Stafford, the quarterback for the Rams, has had some back issues. If he can get those worked out, I think the Rams have a pretty decent team this year. Even over my Bears. This is our first year with our new offense, first year with our new head coach. We'll take getting in the playoffs and going deep. We don't have to go to the Super Bowl this year. Not that I wouldn't love that, but we'll see where it goes. All right. Now we're going to do a little bit of fantasy segment, fantasy football for some of these out there. Now Danny is not a fantasy football player. Because he'd just pick all the Cowboys. That's all he'd do.
That's what I do.
So
although a text I got from you this weekend, you weren't very happy with the pick you got. So
that's exactly right.
Even though I don't understand it,
I know.
Laugh,
I'm in a couple of different fantasy leagues, and I texted Danny this weekend that I actually got Dak Prescott, the quarterback for the Cowboys, in both of my fantasy football leagues.
Yeah.
So I'm riding with the Cowboys this year, at least to some extent.
My text back to call was congratulations, ? I didn't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing.
Exactly. So. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm going to pick a fantasy football player of the week, and what I'm looking for is a player who will outscore their projection. So this week, I'm picking Joe Flacco, the Cleveland Browns quarterback, who is at home versus Cincinnati. He is projected to score 19 points this week, but I think he'll score well over 24 points, which basically will be a boom for him. And I think he absolutely can do it. It's a weak Cincinnati defense. Joe is a veteran, and they're at home. So I think he's got all those things going for him. I think he'll make that pick. So if you got Joe Flacco and you don't have another quarterback who could score more points than that, put Joe in there. Give him a shot.
All right, Joe.
And then I want to do my fantasy flashback. What I'm going to do is each week I'm going to pick a fantasy player or a fantasy, segment or fantasy portion that scored in the past. So This week, if you had Matt Ryan, a.k.a. Matty Ice, from the Atlanta Falcons in week 1 of 2013, you would have probably won your week that week. He led the Atlanta Falcons to a 37-34 overtime victory over the New Orleans Saints with 448 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. Not too shabby.
Not bad.
Hey,
that's a good game.
I think in most weeks I would probably win your league. I mean, you're doing pretty good there.
Yeah.
You get a lot of bonus points for that, no
good.
doubt. So, like I said, the fantasy flashback goes to Matty Ice and his week 1 performance in 2013. Next segment is our local football teams to watch. So Danny and I each picked a local football team to keep our eyes on, to look at, and to watch throughout the year. We'll be giving updates, of course, on how they're doing and things like that. The local football team that I have picked to watch this year is Jones High School. Right now, they're ranked number 1 in Orlando, number 8 in Florida, and number 47 in national ranking. They're a pretty powerful team, and so I think they're going to do pretty good. I think they're looking good. Apparently, their quarterback wide receiver duo is a pretty good duo. So we'll keep an eye on Jones High School. Danny, who do you got?
So we are a Boone family. My daughter attended Boone High School, so that is my team.
Okay.
So far, they're 2-0.
All right. Nice. Very good.
2-0. They're ranked 24th in Orlando.
Okay.
And in Florida, they're 108.
Okay.
So,
well, a little lower down there.
We'll get better.
That's okay.
Better. But they're 2-0.
That's good.
And they have a game September 5th against Olympia. So
Okay.
we'll see how that goes.
Fantastic. Great.
Yep.
Great. So those are the 2 teams that we'll be watching this week, of course, and we'll give you updates on them and where they're going each week. And then finally, for our final play of the third quarter, we're going to do a lock of the week each week, where we're going to be predicting the home team that will win each week in the NFL. And so I'll go first on this. My lock of the week this week is the Denver Broncos playing at home over the Tennessee Titans. I started, I think, with a pretty good pick for lock of the week. I think this one's pretty safe. Denver's a pretty good team. Tennessee's coming off kind of a rebuilding season and hasn't been doing too well lately. We'll see, but I think Denver will get it done this week versus Tennessee at home. Who do you got, Danny?
So this is another division game. So it's the Giants against Washington.
Wow.
So I'm picking Washington on this one.
Washington at home.
So it's going to be an interesting week with Dallas versus Philly,
And
Giants versus Washington.
Wow.
I am from New York, but my heart is not with the Giants. So
a New Yorker rooting for Dallas.
isn't that insane?
Oh,
So
wow.
but yeah,
Picking Philly in the Super Bowl. What?
I'm all over the place. See,
What kind
I'm
of-
unpredictable.
What's
So how's
happening
that?
here?
Yeah, I'm all
What
over
is
the-
this?
But yeah, I'm picking the Commanders for this game.
Okay, fantastic.
We'll see.
Great. We'll see how our locks of the week pan out. That takes us into the fourth quarter. You're, again, listening to the Home Team Podcast, and we're in the final stretch here. Now we're going to go into our homelessness MVP of the week, and each week we'll pick someone or an initiative or something that's happening that stands out in the homeless service world. So, Danny, take it away.
Sure. So the MVP of the week is the 407 Connect bus. So this program is designed to provide a safe overnight sleeping accommodations to 42 individuals at a time. 407 will consist of 2 custom fabricated buses. These individuals are connected resources at the Christian Service Center, who is overseeing this new program. It's an overnight shelter, if you want to call it, on a bus that will have security and staff on board.
Yeah.
It's an insulated, controlled bus that's going to sleep 19 to 20 people. It has a security space with lockable doors, storage compartments for belongings, which is always an issue with those experiencing homelessness, is having belongings and making sure that they keep those belongings. And part of this is to get people off the streets, and they are expected to connect more than 400 individuals to permanent housing over the next 3 years. So
Fantastic.
MVP to Christian Service Center, 407 Connect, and the city for working with Christian Service Center to provide these buses. So I think we're going to see a change in how homelessness is addressed with these buses, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you out of the area, that's the city of Orlando, and this is 407 is our area code here, so that's why they called it 407 Connect. It's in Central Florida, and the idea is for them to move this bus around to different locations as a mobile shelter.
Correct.
And as Danny said, they have all the supportive services, the security, all of those types of things, and ultimately trying to get people into housing, which again is the ultimate goal of what we're trying to do, because we don't want people to end up back out on the streets. So great.
And again, they'll be providing all the case management on site and all the other services that the wraparound services that they need.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great one. Good pick. Good pick. And now we go to our homeless fumble of the week, where an initiative, a provider, someone in the community, something happened that wasn't so positive. So Danny, take it away with our fumble of the week.
Sure. So, shame to the Howard Johnson by Wyndham on International Drive. Just recently, about 2 weeks ago, they had their water shut off due to the owner's non-payment to the utility provider. Then during the inspection, the fire department found that the building's fire alarm system was not functioning, and it was a serious and immediate life safety hazard. So they evicted 60 families, roughly about 200 people, who were living there in long-term pay-by-week arrangements. This included families with children, individuals with disabilities, older adults on fixed incomes, and other housing insecurity. Many of these residents paid their rent in advance, and they were just blindsided by the eviction. Multiple tenants expressed feeling deceived and distressed. That just gets me mad. But on the positive, several local groups, the Coalition for the Homeless, the Christian Service Center, Homeless Services Network, Healthcare Center for the Homeless, and Community Legal stepped in to offer shelter, intake support, food, toiletries. The coalition placed 5 families into bridge housing, so that was a great thing. And some individuals received temporary shelter. The motel, just so we're clear with everyone, is independently owned, so it's not by Wyndham Hotels.
Okay.
But shame.
That's not a good fumble.
Yeah.
And that leads to kind of one of the bigger issues to talk about, and we might dive into this later in later episodes, but homelessness looks a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And people paying week to week or month to month at a hotel or an extended stay, they're right on the cusp of homelessness. And something like this happens, or they can't make their payment one week, or something happens, and they immediately fall into unsheltered homelessness unless they have the support of all the providers, like you said.
Exactly.
And luckily in this case, they were able to help some people, but it was a real scramble. I talked to some of the providers, and it was very short notice, and there were a lot of people who needed placement, or a lot of people that needed shelter even for one night. And so that's just poor management, all the way.
I think it shows also the partnerships that we have, how
That's
they
right.
mobilize together in just these crises.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and they just work together to try to solve what's
absolutely.
happening. But it's really horrible how 60 families from one day to the next were displaced. It's just, so.
Yeah, great. All right, and now we're on to our final play. The final play, we'll talk about kind of a call to action, or we'll talk about what you can do in the community. And so our final play this week is for you to look around and let us know how homelessness is or is not affecting you in the community today. Danny, just as a side note, when I was thinking about this final play, one of the things I did is I counted how many people I saw on the streets on my drive into work today. Mm-hmm. And all I saw was one, which is absolutely fantastic. Mm-hmm. I kept thinking to myself, people talk about the visible homeless and people out on the streets, but they don't talk about how often they don't see people out there. And that's because of the work that we do. So anyway, so I want people to look around. I want people to send it to questions@pathlighthome.org. That's our email. Let us know how homelessness is or is not affecting you in our community. We'd like to know. We'd like to answer some of your questions, hear some of your comments, and then we'll bring them up again on next week's show. So that's it for this week. To learn more about Pathlight Home, please go to our website at pathlighthome.org and check out the ways that you can get involved to make our community a better place to live for everyone. We want to say thank you. Thank you, Danny, for being a great host with me,
Thank
our
you,
co-host.
Carl. Yes.
And we appreciate it, and we hope to see everybody or hear everybody's comments, and hopefully you'll tune in again next week. Thank you.
Thank you.